The sound that woke Anna was wrong. Too many horses moving too fast in the pre-dawn darkness. She lay still in her narrow bed, listening to her father's voice rise sharp and urgent from the main room of their adobe homestead. Through the thin walls, she could hear her mother speaking rapidly in the Apache tongue she taught Anna in secret, words that flowed like water over stones. "Stay quiet, little bird," came her mother's whispered voice as she slipped into Anna's room. Maria's face was pale in the moonlight, her long black hair loose around her shoulders. In her hands she carried a bundle of clothes and the sacred eagle feather that usually hung above Anna's bed. A prayer feather blessed by her grandmother's people, meant to carry prayers to the Creator and protect the innocent. "Mama, what's happening?" "Comancheros," Maria said, the word heavy with ancient fear. "Bad men who steal people to sell like cattle. You remember the hiding place we showed you?" Anna nodded, her heart hammering against her ribs. The root cellar beneath the kitchen floor, dug deep and hidden beneath a heavy rug and wooden chest. Her parents had prepared for this day, though Anna had hoped it would never come. The sound of horses grew louder, accompanied by rough voices speaking Spanish and English in the crude mixture of men who lived outside the law. Maria pressed the prayer feather into Anna's small hands, wrapping her fingers around the leather cord. "This will protect you, just as it protected me when I was small. Your great-grandmother blessed it with prayers older than memory." Maria's voice broke slightly. "No matter what happens, you hold on to this and remember, you are loved, you are seen, you are never alone." Anna wanted to ask 1,000 questions, but the sound of splintering wood from the front door cut through the night like a blade. Maria kissed her daughter's forehead once, hard, then lifted the trapdoor to the cellar. "Remember what I taught you about being quiet as a mouse, little bird. Stay down there until the sun is high for 3 days. Then you follow the creek north to the old medicine spring. If anyone comes looking for you—" Maria's eyes filled with tears she couldn't shed. "You tell them you're Maria Whisperwind's daughter, and they'll know you're protected." Anna dropped into the darkness below, clutching the prayer feather and her bundle of clothes. Above her the trapdoor closed with a soft thud, followed by the scrape of the chest being dragged back into place. She crouched in the earth-smelling darkness, surrounded by stored potatoes and preserved meat, and tried to make herself small as a shadow. The sounds that followed would haunt her dreams for years to come. Rough voices demanding to know where the breed woman was hiding her half-blood brat. Her father's voice, steady and defiant even as they beat him. Her mother speaking Apache prayers in a voice that never wavered, even when the men started shouting about how much money a woman like her would bring in Santa Fe. Anna pressed the prayer feather to her lips and whispered the words her mother had taught her. "Guide me, protect me, help me remember who I am." The feather was soft against her skin, still warm from hanging above her bed, carrying the scent of sage and sweetgrass from the ceremony where it had been blessed. The violence above seemed to last forever, but eventually the voices faded, replaced by the sound of horses moving away at a fast clip. Anna waited in the darkness, counting her heartbeats, listening for any sign that someone might return. Only when the silence had stretched unbroken for what felt like hours did she dare to crack open the trapdoor. The homestead was destroyed. Furniture overturned, dishes shattered, her father's books scattered like fallen leaves. But worse than the destruction was the absence, the terrible quiet where her parents' voices should have been. Anna climbed out of the cellar on trembling legs, the prayer feather clutched so tightly in her fist that the leather cord left marks on her palm. She walked through the ruins of her home like a sleepwalker, looking for any sign that her parents might be hiding, might have escaped. In her parents' bedroom, she found her mother's jewelry box overturned, the few precious things scattered across the floor. But lying beside the broken mirror was something that made Anna's breath catch. A small piece of her mother's dress, torn and stained with blood. The reality hit her then like a physical blow. They were gone, taken, and she was alone in a world that had suddenly become vast and dangerous. Anna sank to her knees beside the torn fabric, clutching the prayer feather to her chest. The sun was beginning to rise through the broken windows, painting everything in shades of gold and crimson that seemed mockingly beautiful after the night's horror. She stayed there until the sun was high overhead, too stunned to move, too afraid to think. But as the day wore on and no one came, no neighbors, no rescue, no return of her captors, Anna began to understand that survival would depend on following her mother's instructions. 3 days. Wait 3 days, then follow the creek to the medicine spring. Anna gathered what supplies she could find that the raiders hadn't destroyed or scattered. A few pieces of jerky, a water skin, a blanket that still smelled like her mother's hair. She changed into the darker clothes Maria had given her, clothes that would blend with the desert landscape. As she prepared to hide again, Anna caught sight of herself in a shard of broken mirror. Half Apache, half Irish, she carried features from both her parents, her father's green eyes and her mother's high cheekbones, skin that could pass for Mexican in good light or Apache in shadow. It was a heritage that made her valuable to slave traders but dangerous to claim in a territory where bloodlines could mean the difference between life and death. Anna touched the prayer feather to her reflection, seeing her mother's face in her own features. "I am Maria Whisperwind's daughter," she whispered to the broken mirror. "I am protected." Then she returned to the cellar to wait, to count the hours until she could begin the journey her mother had set before her. In the darkness below ground, with only the prayer feather for comfort, Anna began to learn the first harsh lesson of survival. Sometimes staying alive meant holding perfectly still, even when everything in you wanted to run. Above her, the wind moved through the ruined homestead, carrying the scent of sage and the distant promise of rain. And somewhere in that wind, Anna thought she could hear her mother's voice singing the old songs, reminding her daughter that even in the deepest darkness, the prayers of the ancestors were always listening. 3 days felt like 3 lifetimes in the underground darkness. Anna emerged from the cellar on unsteady legs, blinking in the harsh desert sunlight that seemed too bright, too normal for a world that had been shattered. The homestead looked even more desolate in daylight, walls scorched black in places, the vegetable garden trampled, her mother's carefully tended herbs scattered and dying. She followed her mother's instructions with the mechanical precision of someone afraid to think too deeply about her situation. The creek that ran behind their property was little more than a trickle this late in the season, but it provided direction and the promise of water. Anna filled her skin and began walking north, the prayer feather tucked safely inside her shirt, close to her heart. The landscape she traveled through was both familiar and strange. She'd walked parts of this country with her father when he hunted, had gathered herbs here with her mother. But now every rock formation looked like it might hide raiders. Every shadow could conceal danger. Anna moved like the Apache ancestors her mother had told her about, quietly, carefully, always aware of the wind direction and the position of the sun. By evening of the first day, her small supply of jerky was already running low. Anna had never hunted alone, had never had to survive without the safety net of adult protection. She made camp in a shallow cave, building a tiny fire that gave more comfort than warmth, and tried to remember everything her mother had taught her about reading the desert. "The land will provide if you know how to ask," Maria had always said. "But first you must be still enough to hear what it's trying to tell you." Anna pressed the prayer feather between her palms and whispered the words her mother had taught her. Help me see what I need to see. Help me find what I need to find. The second day brought new challenges. Anna found a cluster of prickly pear cactus and managed to harvest some of the fruit, burning her fingers on the tiny spines despite her careful approach. She discovered a small pool where the creek widened, and there she caught her first glimpse of herself since leaving the homestead. The girl in the water looked older, harder around the edges. Her long brown hair was tangled with burrs and dust, her clothes torn from pushing through brush. But her eyes, her father's green eyes, still held a spark of determination that surprised her. "I am Maria Whisperwind's daughter," she told her reflection, touching the prayer feather. "I am not alone." As if in response to her words, a red-tailed hawk circled overhead, crying once before disappearing toward the north. Anna took it as a sign and continued following the creek, her steps growing more confident despite her exhaustion. The medicine spring appeared on the morning of the third day like something from her mother's stories. Anna almost missed it, a small pool hidden among red rocks and ancient cottonwood trees, so perfectly camouflaged that it seemed to exist in a different world from the harsh desert around it. The water was crystal clear and surprisingly cold, bubbling up from deep underground sources. Anna knelt beside the spring and drank deeply, feeling the water restore something in her that went beyond simple thirst. This was sacred water, blessed by generations of Apache medicine people. Her mother had brought her here once, years ago, to leave an offering and say prayers for the family's health. "This is where the spirits speak to those who know how to listen," Maria had explained, "where the old ways and the new world meet." Now Anna was here alone, a different person than the protected child who'd visited with her mother. She made camp beside the spring, using skills her parents had taught her to build a more permanent shelter. For the first time since the raid, she felt something approaching safety. But safety was an illusion in Apache territory, and Anna learned that lesson on her fourth day at the spring. She was gathering wood when she heard the horses, not the wild thunder of raiders, but the measured pace of a small group moving with purpose. Anna froze behind a large boulder, clutching the prayer feather and trying to make herself invisible. The riders who appeared were not Comancheros. They wore the dust-covered clothes of legitimate travelers, and Anna could see the glint of a sheriff's badge on one man's vest, a search party, probably looking for survivors of the raid. Anna's heart leaped with hope, but something held her back from revealing herself. Maybe it was the conversation she overheard as they watered their horses. "Damn shame about their Morrison place," one man was saying. "But that's what happens when white men marry Apache women, brings trouble down on everyone." "Half-breed kids probably dead by now," another replied. "Desert don't forgive mistakes, and a child alone out here." He shrugged. "Might be a mercy. Sheriff says we give it 2 more days, then head back. No point wasting time on a lost cause." Anna pressed deeper into her hiding place, understanding with crystal clarity that these men weren't really looking to save her. They were going through the motions, doing what looked right to the territory officials. But their hearts weren't in it, and if they found her, she'd be seen as a burden, a problem to be solved rather than a child to be protected. After the search party moved on, Anna sat beside the medicine spring and faced the truth her mother had been preparing her for all along. She was truly alone now, and her survival would depend not on rescue by the white world, but on connecting with the older, deeper wisdom that flowed in her Apache blood. That night, Anna performed the ritual her mother had taught her for times of great decision. She built a small fire using the sacred pattern, placed the prayer feather in the smoke, and spoke the ancient words. "Grandfather spirits, grandmother spirits, I am your daughter seeking guidance. Show me the path I should walk." As the smoke rose toward the star-filled sky, Anna felt a presence settle around her like invisible arms. Not her mother, that voice was still too fresh, too painful to bear, but something older, wiser, patient as stone and enduring as water. In the dancing flames, Anna saw a vision that would guide her through the trials ahead. An old woman with silver hair and knowing eyes, walking toward the spring with the slow, measured pace of someone who belonged to this land as much as the rocks and trees. Anna woke at dawn with absolute certainty that she was meant to stay at the medicine spring, that someone was coming who would understand her need. She spent the day preparing, gathering wood and food, making herself ready to meet whatever the spirits had sent. As the sun set on her 5th day alone, Anna sat beside the sacred water, the prayer feather in her hands, and waited with the patience her Apache ancestors had learned over countless generations. She was no longer just a lost child hoping for rescue. She was a young woman learning to trust in older powers, deeper wisdom, and the unbreakable connection between the living and those who had walked this path before her. The spirits had heard her prayers. Now it was time to see what answer they would send. Anna woke to the soft sound of singing, a melody that seemed to rise from the earth itself. For a moment, caught between sleep and waking, she thought it might be her mother's voice carried on the desert wind. But as consciousness returned, she realized the song was closer, more present, and coming from the direction of the medicine spring. She crept through the pre-dawn darkness, moving with the silent steps her mother had taught her, until she could see the water through the cottonwood branches. An old woman knelt beside the spring, her long silver hair braided with beads and feathers, her weathered hands moving in the patterns of ancient prayer. Anna's heart stopped as she recognized the scene from her vision. This was the grandmother the spirits had sent. But recognition didn't make her less afraid. She crouched behind a boulder, clutching the prayer feather, uncertain whether to reveal herself or remain hidden. The old woman's voice carried clearly in the still air, singing in the Apache tongue that Anna understood from her mother's teachings. It was a song of healing, of calling scattered spirits home, of mending what had been broken. As the melody rose and fell, Anna felt something inside her chest begin to unknot, a tension she'd been carrying since the night of the raid. "Child of two worlds," the grandmother said without turning around, her voice carrying the quiet authority of aged wisdom. "You can come out now. I've been walking for 3 days to find you." Anna hesitated, then slowly emerged from her hiding place. The old woman turned, and Anna found herself looking into eyes that seemed to hold all the patience of stone and all the kindness of flowing water. "I am Blue Dawn Woman," the grandmother said in English accented with the musical rhythms of Apache speech. "I was friend to your mother's mother, taught her the songs she taught to Maria Whisper Wind. The spirits told me her daughter was alone and in need of guidance." Anna approached slowly, still clutching the prayer feather. "How did you know where to find me?" Blue Dawn Woman smiled, gestures toward the sacred pool. "Your mother was wise to send you here. This spring has been calling to lost children for more generations than the white man has been in this territory. I have been its keeper for 30 years. The old woman studied Anna with eyes that seemed to see through skin and bone to the soul beneath. "You have been living on fear and stubbornness for 5 days. That will keep you alive, but it will not help you heal. Sit with me, child, and let me see what needs mending." Anna sat cross-legged beside the spring, and Blue Dawn Woman began a careful examination, not just of Anna's physical condition, but of her spirit. She looked at the prayer feather, nodding approvingly at its condition. "Your mother taught you well. This feather has been holding your spirit together like sinew holds a bow. The grandmother's hands moved gently over Anna's head, feeling for fever, checking her eyes for signs of desert sickness. But protection is only the first step. Now comes the harder work of deciding who you will become. Over the following days, Blue Dawn Woman began Anna's real education in survival, not just of the body, but of the spirit. She taught Anna to read the desert with Apache eyes, to find water where others saw only dry rock, to understand the language of animals and weather that had been speaking to humans since the beginning of time. Your white father gave you one kind of strength, Blue Dawn Woman explained as they gathered medicinal plants, the strength to stand against the world when it tries to break you. Your Apache mother gave you another, the strength to bend with the wind while staying rooted in your truth. Anna learned to make fire without matches, to weave baskets from yucca fibers, to prepare foods that would sustain her through lean times. But more importantly, she learned the stories of her people, tales of survival and wisdom that had been passed down through generations of Apache women. Long ago, Blue Dawn Woman told her one evening as they sat beside their small fire, there was a girl who lost her family to raiders, just as you have. She wandered the desert for many days, crying to the spirits for help. Finally, exhausted and ready to give up, she sat beside a medicine spring much like this one. Anna leaned forward, recognizing the cadence of an important teaching story. The spirits told her she had two choices. She could try to return to the world that had failed to protect her family, spending her life seeking revenge or pity. Or she could become something new, a bridge between worlds, someone who understood both Apache wisdom and white man's ways, who could help others find healing. What did she choose? Blue Dawn Woman smiled. She chose to become a medicine woman. She learned the old ways so deeply that she could never be lost, no matter how far she traveled. And she used her knowledge to help others who were caught between worlds, just as you are caught now. That night, Anna dreamed of her mother for the first time since the raid. But instead of the terrible final memory of Maria's capture, she saw her mother as a young woman, learning these same lessons from Blue Dawn Woman beside this same sacred spring. I knew this day might come, Maria said in the dream, her voice carrying all the love Anna remembered. That's why I made sure you knew the old songs, the old stories, not because I wanted you to be Apache instead of white, but because I wanted you to have choices. Anna woke with tears on her face, but they were tears of understanding rather than grief. For the first time since the raid, she felt connected to something larger than her own survival. I want to learn, she told Blue Dawn Woman that morning, everything you can teach me. The old woman nodded as if she'd been expecting this request. Learning takes time and time takes patience. Are you prepared for both? Anna looked at the prayer feather in her hands, feeling the weight of all the prayers and protections it carried. Then she looked at Blue Dawn Woman, this grandmother who'd appeared exactly when the spirits knew she would be needed. My mother told me I was loved, that I was seen, that I was never alone. I think she knew you would come. Mothers know many things they cannot speak directly, Blue Dawn Woman agreed. Your mother knew that someday you would need to choose your own path, guided by wisdom older than the troubles between white and Apache people. As the sun rose over the medicine spring, painting the desert in shades of gold and crimson, Anna felt something settle inside her chest. Not the desperate hope for rescue she'd been carrying, but the deeper satisfaction of finding her true direction. She was still Maria Whisperwind's daughter, still Patrick Morrison's child. But she was also becoming something new, a young woman who carried the best of both worlds, who would learn to heal rather than simply survive. The raid had taken her family, but it hadn't taken her identity. That, Anna realized, was something only she could give away or choose to keep. Anna, Sarah said, after Blue Dawn Woman had introduced them and explained the situation. I've been hoping someone like you would come. We need teachers who can walk between worlds, who understand that wisdom comes in many forms. Anna looked around the simple schoolroom, seeing maps and books alongside medicine wheels and traditional crafts. I don't know how to be a teacher. You know how to survive when everything familiar is taken away, Sarah replied. You know how to find strength in ancient wisdom and apply it to new challenges. Those are exactly the skills these children need. Over the following weeks, Anna began the delicate work of building a new life that honored both sides of her heritage. She lived with Sarah but spent her mornings learning to read and write with the fluency her father had begun teaching her. Her afternoons were devoted to helping Blue Dawn Woman tend to people who came seeking traditional healing, soldiers with nightmares, settlers' wives worn down by frontier hardships, Apache people trying to navigate the changing world. Anna discovered she had a gift for translation that went beyond language. She could help a white rancher understand why his Apache workers performed certain rituals before handling horses. She could explain to Apache families why learning English might protect their children without requiring them to abandon their own traditions. You are becoming what your mother hoped you would become, Blue Dawn Woman told her one evening as they prepared medicines by lamplight. A bridge between worlds, someone who can help others find healing. But Anna's new life was not without challenges. Some white townspeople whispered about the half-breed girl who practiced Apache medicine. Some traditional Apache people questioned whether someone raised in the white world could truly understand the old ways. Anna learned to navigate both forms of prejudice with the patience Blue Dawn Woman had taught her. The test of her new identity came when news arrived that a group of Comancheros had been captured near the Mexican border. Among the prisoners they'd freed were 3 women and 2 children who'd been taken in various raids over the past year. Anna's heart stopped when she heard the description of one of the women. Dark hair, Apache features, known to speak both English and Spanish. It could be her mother. You don't have to go, Sarah said gently when Anna asked for permission to travel to the territorial jail where the freed captives were being held. Whatever you find there, it will change you. Everything that matters has already changed me, Anna replied, fingering the prayer feather. Now I need to know what survived. The journey to Tucson took 2 days by stage, and Anna spent every mile preparing herself for disappointment. She'd learned not to build hope on uncertain foundations, to find peace in acceptance rather than expectation. The woman in the territorial jail was not her mother. She was younger, harder around the edges, marked by experiences Anna could only imagine. But when she looked up and saw Anna, something flickered in her eyes. "You're Maria Whisper Wind's daughter," she said in Apache. "I can see her in your face." Anna's breath caught. "You knew my mother?" "We were held in the same camp for 2 months. She spoke of you constantly, worried that you would think she had abandoned you." The woman reached through the bars to touch Anna's hand. "She made me promise that if I ever got free and you were alive, I would tell you something." Anna waited, her heart hammering. "She said to tell you that her love for you was like water in the desert, precious beyond measure and strong enough to sustain life even when it can't be seen." That night Anna sat in the small hotel room Sarah had arranged for her and held the prayer feather to her heart. Her mother was still gone, probably forever. But the message the freed woman had carried was like medicine for a wound Anna hadn't realized was still bleeding. Maria Whisperwind had not forgotten her daughter. Even in captivity, even facing unimaginable hardship, She had held Anna in her heart and planned for this moment of connection. Anna returned to Wilcox with a new understanding of her purpose. She was not just surviving or even healing, she was carrying forward the love and wisdom her mother had invested in her, sharing it with others who needed bridges between the worlds they'd lost and the futures they were trying to build. Years later, when people asked Anna how she'd found the strength to build a school that would educate 3 generations of children caught between cultures, she would touch the prayer feather she still wore and tell them about the grandmother who'd appeared exactly when the spirits knew she was needed. Some gifts, she would say, are too important to keep to yourself. They are meant to be passed on, like water flowing from a sacred spring, nourishing everything it touches. The girl who'd hidden in a root cellar was gone, replaced by a woman who understood that survival was just the first step towards something greater. The chance to become a source of healing in a world that desperately needed people who could see beyond the barriers that divided communities and families. Anna had found her path between worlds, and she would spend the rest of her life helping others find theirs.